afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another interesting episode of CXO Roundtable. CXO Roundtable is a platform for high-profile talks and conversations with leaders and experts in business, technology, and innovation that transforms leaders, impact organization, and to develop evolving business models. This is an initiative by the Talk, a new media and thought leadership platform. This event is brought to you by the Tata Tele Business Services. It is the country's leading enabler of connectivity and communication solutions for businesses. They offer services ranging from connectivity, collaboration, cloud, security, IoT, and marketing solutions. Tata Tele Business Services also offers the largest portfolio of ICT services for the businesses in India. It's going to be a very interesting session today because the theme itself is enabling a digital transformation for business growth. So we're going to see how technology is aiding us in improving and enhancing our business growth in tough times like the pandemic and the post-pandemic era. But before that, let me quickly introduce today's panelists. I'd like to start with Mr. Ankit Aggarwal, Head of Technology, ARK Infosolutions Private Limited. Welcome, Mr. Ankit.
Thank you.
We have Mr. Vijay Varma Srivatsavai, Vice President Product, Junglee Games. Welcome, Mr. Vijay. We have Mr. Ankur Tripathi, General Manager, Javi Systems India Private Limited. Welcome, Mr. Ankur. We also have Mr. Charanjeet Juneja, Head IT, Sietz Technology India Private Limited. Welcome, Mr. Charanjeet.
Thank you.
It's also my honor and privilege to introduce and welcome Mr. Tanjeet Singh, General Manager, SME Cluster Sales Enterprise, Tata Tele Business Services. Welcome, Mr. Tanjeet.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone.
Before we move on to the roundtable, I would love to invite Mr. Tanjeet to deliver the opening thoughts for today's session. Over to you, Tanjeet.
Yeah, thanks, Muthu. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be a part of this CXO RT Roundtable. This is one of the initiatives which we have been doing, for a while, right? And the objective of this particular initiative is primarily to understand, what is the digital enabler, which is going on in the market, and what are your growth success story as far as your business goes, and what are your thoughts in terms of, the digital transformation for any organization if they need to, convert it, and what are your best practices as well. So I would love to, let's have the more understanding on this particular, topic, and would love to, understand more about, what are your key success stories as well. Right, Muthu?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Tanjeet. So let's quickly jump into today's roundtable without any further ado. The optimism was one thing that we all swallowed for the last 3 years, with the thought that everything is going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right. Everything was all right for a while. And again, a lot of other crises popped up and we are still facing a crisis in one way or the other. But let's be very specific to pandemic. During this pandemic and post-pandemic, if there were one industry that really enjoyed this time was the IT industry, right? Because they saw a phenomenal growth and the companies enjoyed a lot of cost cutting and cost saving, sending all the employees to work at the comfort of their home. And then it changed to work from anywhere. The culture of remote working started to be very predominant. And overall, the IT had a really good time. I wouldn't be surprised if few IT owners didn't want the pandemic to end at all, because that's how they actually relished this entire period is what I think that happened. So let me ask you a very simple, straightforward question to start today's session. Is the IT and IT-enabled services sector seeing growth post-pandemic issues? I would love to start with Mr. Vijay. Over to you.
Hey, thanks for that, Muthu. Yeah, so I'm very fortunate to be in one of those sectors within IT also, which is gaming, which really saw a multifold growth, even during the pandemic, like, the phase 1, phase 2, right? Like, we have peaked, our, like, best ever, figures, like, on daily, weekly, on monthly, basis, across all the product portfolio under Junglee games, and that's observed across the competition also, right? There were few competitors who grew even more aggressively than us, during pandemic. So the challenges that we had to deal with, were the unexpected scale, because a lot of concurrency, we deal with on day-to-day basis, during our, the peak, traffic hours, of multiple games that we offer. So that's a major challenge for us, and another challenge, that I would, that I we didn't really figure out in the initial, the first phase of pandemic, but in the second phase of pandemic, we did observe that lack of coordination, calendar driving a lot of everybody's routine, and people being less creative, people being not thoughtful, these are all the things both at business and personality level, issues that we observed. And
All right.
otherwise, in terms of purely the numbers, business, the economics, we are doing phenomenally well. We are very fortunately to be on the one of those domains, which really grew multifold.
All right. But I think in general, the gaming industry itself is always, a ever booming industry, given the fact that there are a lot of young adults in our country. I don't really see that this industry is going to saturate anytime soon, because a lot of games, including, these PUBG, or there were a rival to it as well. India created its own version of PUBG. Some Bollywood actors were also being starred at it. But I'm very happy. But at the end, I'm very happy to know that you are really having a great time even during this pandemic. Let me quickly move on to Mr. Ankit. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Muthu. So at ARK, we have a division on EdTech, and in the pandemic time, we have seen the adaptability of technology becomes very easy. And earlier, sales team, marketing team really has to put hard to management of schools and different stakeholders in the industry to accept the technology for the education domain. But in the pandemic time, they have really understood the need of the technology. Adaptability is very high. From the organization's point of view, what I understand, for the decision makers, they have also understood the need of the change of the business models. A lot of business models has been changed and evolved further in terms of adapting technology and how we can scale up in the time wherein, offline meetings and personal interactions are not there. So what I understand that ITES growth has certainly tasted a different flavor, and which is on a positive side, and I think this will continue once you have adapted something, so that will continue for a certain time, whether it is an offline model or online model down the line sometime. But people know that similar situation can arise any given point of time in a particular time frame or any frequency, because as you rightly mentioned at the start of the call that the change mode of the pandemic is changing every now and then, right? Firstly, it is something else. Now it is something else. In future, everybody is unpredictable, and everybody is very. Now, what I understand, people are not putting even thought that how the shape would be. But in spite of that, the people are trying to be well prepared in advance in order to have right set of tools, right set of techniques, the right set of business models, and right set of team members to counter that. So in a nutshell, I must say that yes, IT sector has seen a growth, and it will continue as per my understanding.
Okay. So change is the one thing that is not going to change, is what Ankit has beautifully mentioned in what he's trying to say. And yes, yet again, a person who's admitting the fact that IT is booming after the pandemic. Over to Mr. Charanjeet Juneja.
Good morning, all of you. Basically, Sietz is a manufacturing industry. So when during the lockdown, the functions involved in production process cannot work from home. But the other functions like finance, HR, and IT was supposed to work from home. At that time, suddenly, when the first lockdown implemented, uh, most of the employees does not have laptops and Wi-Fi dongles to connect to the office environment. But we had VPN connectivity with us. We arranged laptops for few employees for the company uh, to whom the work from home was required, and we in that case government also helps a lot by e-passes. Our HR department provides e-passes to IT, and IT performed very well at that time by issuing laptops to the employees on immediate basis, and the market was also closed. Uh, Apart from that, internet connectivity was also an issue. So during that time, it was the March ending, which was the most precious time for finance function, which has to present the uh, uh, financial year statements. So it was a tough time, but we had done very well by providing laptops and internet connections. And through VPN connectivity, all the employees successfully did the work from home. And presently, we are not work from home right now because it is a manufacturing industry and all the functions has to be present at the workplace for production purpose.
All right. So I think
Thank you.
one of the toughest jobs to be done is being a software person in a manufacturing company, and especially during this pandemic, when the entire company shut down, we hardly know what has to be done because in the manufacturing industry, there is absolutely no topic to talk about the work from home because you cannot manufacture something at home. But
Yes.
the software persons, I think they really had a very tough time during this pandemic, I believe. So anyways, let me quickly ask Mr. Ankur to talk about this. Mr. Ankur, are you with us?
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Ankur.
Yeah, actually, I just want to say that the post-pandemic, the situation of the telecom industry and the IT industry now becoming very good because employees are adapted to do the work from home. And a couple of months ago, I have done the survey also. I have discussed with many corporate leaders that the opportunity of work from home or work from office, which one is better? Then most of the employees and most of the industry leaders said that work from home is very good for the employees because they can enjoy their family time. They can do the work at any time. They don't have any botheration about going regularly going offices on time, punch in and all. So the thing is that the post pandemic has taught us a lot, and we have learned us a lot from the pandemic how to use the technology. Even though the productivity of the employees also increased because they enjoyed their time with the families, and now they are doing very good. And one more thing, the cost of the companies and the cost of the offices also reduced. And for the telecom, the operators also made the huge margin because most of the time the people stayed at home, they enjoyed Netflix, they enjoy OTT platforms. So the revenue of the operators also increased in that time. So
Okay.
it's a good thing that the technology is changed, and people are also adapting to the technology. So it's a good thing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Ankur. I think he drew us a little bit to the past and gave us a tinge of nostalgia, I believe. Because back in those pandemic days, every other home in India household had these OTT, and they had a very comfortable time working and also spending a lot of time with their family. And I think with that, I'm going to draw my next question. So the work from home model was very predominant during the pandemic. With the restrictions being eased in the current scenario, are you looking at the hybrid model of working, or is it still going to be completely work from home? Over to Mr. Vijay to share his thoughts.
Hey, hi. So I think that's a question like every company is answering now, right? Like so we started initially with a thought like when we wanted to come back in the last October. we'll start with a hybrid model, and we took a a small, like probably like 1/4 of like the size required, and like we started operating back, because very fortunately I was able to vacate the office like just before pandemic, and I was able to save some costs there. But once we started asking people to come back like from a certain date, the major friction is like not coming to office, right? Like the major friction is people coming from their native places, or like from their comfort zone to, like, let's say we are located in Bangalore, coming to Bangalore. That's the actual friction. Once people are in Bangalore, people are actually preferring to come to office daily. At least like 75% of the people are preferring to come to office daily, because maybe one of the factors is like that socializing angle is all gone, right? Like so we grew from like a pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. We added like probably like around like 30% of new employees like joined. So means like every third person is not known to everyone, right? Like so that's a big problem to deal with, like and people inside laptops versus outside laptops, like altogether, like they look very different, and very different image that you picture for yourself, right? All these things like became a very surprisingly like unknown variables that we had to deal with. And we started as a hybrid model, where like couple of days people have to come to office. But I see now like it's been 6 months, like we started working out of office, right? Like so I see like 80% of the people whoever relocated to Bangalore, out of that like 80% are coming daily almost. So it's like socializing aspect being more productive, and we are doing things more faster when we are in office. That's also observed, right? Like so when there are certain hard deadlines that we need to meet, like so we'll make sure like that whole week or month is predominantly being in office.
Okay.
So I believe we'll slowly move towards like daily working culture, and like with unlimited work from home flexibility when there is a need.
True.
That's
I think this
more
with what Mr. Vijay told, I think this is a classic example of how the human brain works. I think we're all like students. The students, they all get frantic once the summer holidays starts. And as soon as the midway, they get bored being at home and they badly want to go back to the school. I think that's how the employees are currently feeling, because when the pandemic struck and when all the IT companies announced the work from home, everyone were very happy to go back to the home. And as a matter of fact, we were all very busy during this pandemic than compared to the normal days. Even in the normal days, it was a 9 to 5, but being at home, we were working almost around the clock. And now, because of all those things, they got really bored, and now they badly want to come back to the office, socialize with the others, just like how Mr. Vijay said. Beautiful job. Just let me ask the same to Mr. Ankit.
Yeah, for us, working from home I understand it is quite challenging. So, considering like new team members are there, a lot of attrition happened in the pandemic time, and it is very hard to find out right resource. A lot of trainings and collaboration happens when person is there in office, especially in technology, wherein hand holding and team coordination is required, wherein standard meetings and sprint meetings are happening very frequently. So what I understand that productivity has dipped down in the work from home model. At the initial phase, gradually team has picked up and they have rewired themselves in order to ensure that deliveries are happening on time. I agree with Vijay that team has given the most of the even in the higher productivity. Earlier they used to work say 9 hours in an office. They have worked say 12 hours at home, right? To and fro timings and all other timings has been taken care for the development and to be productive for the office. And even for the tough times in like I mentioned that we have worked on several business model re-engineering and different types of application re-engineering for that and mitigating attrition. So we team has to work really hard, and they have worked on Saturdays, Sundays, and all that. So if in case it is work from office model, Saturdays, Sundays working style is not there. But for work from home model, it's okay, it's fine, chalta hai types, right? Okay, you do that. We need this much of work, and you need to complete that. So that the style has adapted, but gradually we have becoming more professional. Like 9:30 to 6 is the time, and you have to be there, and we will manage you. And post that, it is your time.
Okay.
So I understand now. I'll talk about the hybrid model. So we have taken hybrid model with the hierarchy. So for leadership team and the managerial teams, they are coming to office for twice a week, and actual operations teams are enjoying work from home, right? So what we believe that leadership team and the managerial team, if in case the communication plan and the execution plan and the strategy is very clear with these set of team members, so productivity will improve, outcome will be precise.
Okay.
And for the downsize wherein operational team leaders and actual doers are there, so they are enjoying work from home till the time we don't face any difficulty or any sort of hand holding is required. So very rarely we are asking people to come to office.
All right.
That is on all to case basis, and I feel that this is working.
Okay, sir.
This is working. Interaction between leader and managers should be precise. It's working absolutely fine.
Thank you, Mr. Ankit. I would also like to insist the other participants to keep your answers a little crisp since it's a time-bound session. Over to Mr. Charanjeet Juneja to share his views.
Basically, as I said before, it is a manufacturing industry. So the functions involved in manufacturing process has to come to the workplace. Other functions did the work from home in the pandemic, like finance department, HR, IT, costing department, etc. They did the work from home. And during that time, when the pandemic was there, one who was infected or has symptoms also advised for the work from home.
Okay.
So during that time, the employees did work from home, but they are not fully participated into the manufacturing activities,
Okay.
Which are correlated to the functions.
All right.
So they can they did their meetings, and if they are they have to send offline sheets, they did all that.
Okay.
Apart from that, it was not exactly suitable for us work from home.
Okay, so I think being from a manufacturing industry, it's going to be a hardcore conventional work from office setup. It's not going to be work from home for you. Okay, so yes,
Yes.
Mr. Ankur Tripathi, over to you.
For me, the work from home is a better thing because from last 2 years, I am seeing that the productivity of our company. So you see, we are service industry, and we are only just serving the customer. So I don't know much more about the production industry. So when it comes to the service industry or from our telecom industry, then work from home increases the productivity of the employee. So for my opinion, it's better to be work from home for next 1 year also. We will enjoy it, no issue. And I'm agreed with all the speakers that they are saying that some people has to become office who can't work from home. So it's good that some people come to office, they will do their work so that the productivity and the things should not stop. That is, the show must go on. Thanks.
All right. So it's going to be a hybrid model, I think, which is going to work. And just like how Mr. Ankur said that they are all enjoying the, working from home. He's working from car now. That is what I was talking about. We are all working from at the comfort of any place. Now, I could see a lot of IT people sitting in Starbucks today when I walk out and trying to have a coffee. I see a lot of IT guys sitting. Usually in Starbucks they just have a laptop and they do nothing, just flamboyant their Apple. But today they actually are working. A lot of IT employees are sitting in cafe and working. I think that's how this world is evolving. All you need to have is a good laptop and a good internet connection, and voila, you can work from anywhere. So we've been interacting with the panelists so far. I think this is time wherein I would love to bring Mr. Tanjeet into the show. Mr. Tanjeet, what Tata Tele Business Services can do to improve hybrid work model for the IT and ITES industry?
So Muthu, just to start with, when this pandemic broke out, right? the biggest challenge for any organization was, related to the part of the business continuity, right? And the expectation was very clear related to the part that how, our telco provider can be faster, how they can ensure that, the business continuity, and how they can support in terms of the, the immediate delivery or maybe scalability, right? And the other, the question which was there in the mind of the organization was, I mean, because when you're moving into the work from home concept, right, most of the employees are not that tech savvy as well, right? That was the other question mark which was being there with the organization as well. Just to ensure that, boss, how we can, support the organization on this particular perspective, we also introspected ourselves, where we wanted to move ahead, right? And that really gives an edge to us to, think, differently. And we believe that, yes, we can also be a digital enablement partner with the organization. Tata Tele Business Services is usually supposed to be known as more of a, the network service provider into the market, right? But we started off this journey, 2 or 3 years. And trust me, I've been working with this organization for last 11 years. But in last 2 years, the number of products which we have, introduced to just to support the, the customer and, be on the perspective of plug and play scenario now, right? So we believe that, we can be faster, we can be simpler, we can be, ensure that, the closure can be done on a, the quick prospective way. Network service perspective, yes, we came across with a lot of solution on the work from home perspective, whether it is in this, the form of, the VPN perspective, which is we call it smart VPN, followed by SD-WAN, which we launched. On the unified communication perspective, we believe that yes, this is another area where, the people are looking forward for, maybe in the, whatever, meeting we are doing right now as well, that is also on Zoom, right? So we are also, introduce Zoom in our product portfolio as well. Most of the, the product are moving towards the cloud, right? And I was, as the other fellow panelists were talking about the part of, the talent, you get, most of the people are working from home. I would say that, the organization also identified the cloud talent as well, right? But since they were not tech savvy, probably they really need a, some sort of product on the plug and play scenario. So we introduced, specifically considering the part of, the most of the BPOs are working from home as well, right? So the product line on the part of the work from home scenario on the hosted line, right? We introduced SmartFlow as our brand into the market, where all the hosted product line have been introduced, whether it is in the form of, the hosted IVR or maybe in the form of hosted PBX. We introduced that. Now, what we are also trying to, ensure that there is an also office automation, which we are also brought into the table, where any organization, when they need, they need to start any of the work, right? They need a connectivity followed by, as I said, the unified communication part, as well as the office automation piece. So we are also bringing that into a, the table as well for the customer in the form of Office 365 or maybe G Suite. That's what we are also offering. So we are also, it's been, now more than 40 products which we are offering into the market. So in case any customer is looking forward to, for any kind of a connectivity or maybe automation or anything else, we can be a, the digital enablement partner for the organization.
Okay. All right, Mr. Tanjeet. So to put in a very, very short way, TTBS is offering anything that is faster, smarter, and safer, right? So fantastic. Moving forward, connecting, as Mr. Tanjeet said, one thing is very, very evident, like how Mr. Tanjeet and Ankur said. The only challenge that comes while working from home is that the barrier with which the employer is getting to connect with the employee. Just like how Mr. Tanjeet said, not everyone is tech savvy. Not everyone is pretty much used with Zoom or pretty used with any other software, and making it to understand to a layman level takes a lot of time and challenges. And at the same time, connecting with them in person is far more efficient than connecting them virtually. With all these challenges put in front, how are you connecting your work from home employees currently? And what do you think the service providers like the TTSL can do to improve your work model? I would again like to start with Mr. Vijay. Over to you.
Sure. I mean, see, we are using the regular G Suite, for our calls, and like, Zoom, as we are doing now, like, for, large conferences basically. And I mean, when it comes to, other services like, upgrading our internet VPN and all, we're already with, Tata Tele services, like, so, and we're on a very high speed line, right? Like, so all our data analytics, like, which are the heavier side of accessing, like, during remotely, right? Like, they're all like, pretty sorted, and we did like, take care of that, like, during the pandemic, and like, we went probably like, 3-4x better than like, the pre-pandemic situation basically. So when it comes to what, I mean, we are like fairly easy go, company. We don't want to monitor, any of our employees' time logs or anything, right? Like, so we just make it like, more result, driven, and, we only worry and talk about, the action items and like, the deliveries basically. So I think we are fairly good. We don't foresee any of the problems that are unsolved, in the current state.
Okay. So pretty much at a comfort level, Mr. Vijay, happy to know that.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Ankit, over to you.
Yeah, for tools and techniques we are using for the collaboration in work from home model is like we have Zoom with us as and we have Microsoft Office 365 in which we use Teams frequently for all the meetings across the organization. We are using that, and for Zoom we have given it to leadership team because that ease of the features and all that it is there.
Okay.
As far as model is concerned for TTSL, we are using PRI lines and in Mumbai office and in Bangalore office. So we have experienced that their SOP, there is an improvement in time. Like they need to close as in the opening answer, Tanjeet has already mentioned that team is working and Tata is working in order to have the quick closures. So in spite, it is good that they are adding on different types of products, but along with that, if in case they can further improve onto the core areas, wherein whenever I talk to my IT managers, so they have a clear indication that from Tata, the transactions are very slow and it takes time in order to get things done. So that is one area wherein I think that is a scope of improvement, scope of betterment with the existing set of products. Then if in case, once that existing products have a good and a healthy, adaptability, then certainly adaptability for other new products would be very high.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I understand.
All right.
Thank you.
Asking Mr. Ankit. Mr. Charanjeet, I would love to understand your views on this.
On the technical side, we have Microsoft Office 365, and we use Teams for organizational meetings, for internal and for with customers and vendors also.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from this, we have a very high-speed internet connection and a open VPN system through which the employee can connect to the Office ERP from home.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Ankur, what about you? Mr. Ankur? Mr. Ankur Tripathi?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Ankur.
Hello. Yeah.
Mr. Ankur, are you with us? Can you please unmute yourself? Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Ankur.
Actually, I'm not getting your voice. Hello.
Am I audible for the other speakers?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Hello. I am audible.
Yes, Mr. Ankur, please go ahead. You're audible.
Yeah. Actually, we are using Zoom meetings to be in the collaboration of the team leaders and our management. And for the connectivity, we are using VIL connection, which are providing us a good speed. So this is a way we are on a regular discussion and regular meetings with our teams and management. So most of the things.
I think Mr. Ankur, you're having some trouble with your network because of traveling. I'll shortly get back to you, Mr. Ankur. Let's move on. So I think when we were talking about the technology, I think a predominant of us are either into Google Gmeet or Microsoft Teams or Zoom. And I think this is also a classic example of what happens when we don't update ourselves, because earlier when it was video conference, it was only Skype. But today I don't see Skype to be put use into any sort of professional environment. Maybe because of the fact that they fail to update or cope up with what the current market wants. I think this is also a very good marketing and management lesson, that what happens if we don't update ourselves from time and again. Fantastic. But as we are talking about the technology and the digital transformation, it is also quintessential to talk about cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is posing a great threat to current business model with the regards to the digital transformation, because the entire world is converting into digital workplace, because every other company does have at least a minimal role of IT to play in, including the manufacturing sector, like how Mr. Charanjeet is sitting here. Although he's from a hardcore manufacturing industry, they still employ certain services from the IT. So since IT forms a major part of the workforce, or major part of operation of an industry, cybersecurity is also a huge threat. So what is your view on the cybersecurity? I would again like to start with Mr. Vijay.
Hey, so I have a very least or minimal experience on the cybersecurity side, because most of the problems are dealt with are by our IT and IT ops team, right? Like who handles majority of it. But we did experience a bunch of DDoS attacks and a rat holing attacks, like in certain events, and we had to deal with because we're all placed in the AWS, and everything is practically there, right? So we did observe something that happened on the data center side also, right? But we had to solve case by case things, but I'm frankly I'm not the expert, but it grew compared to pre-pandemic to now, it definitely the numbers have increased.
So yes, Mr. Ankit, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, for cybersecurity challenge, yes, it has grown up in this pandemic time, considering the use of technology is becoming very high. And I think it will grow till the time we accept the fact that yes, we need to invest time in the security area, considering the fact that as industry leaders focus on the outcomes and the deliverables, they miss to focus on the technicalities of the environment, of the platform, and the infrastructure. And sometimes it is very hard in order to make this understandable by the business leaders also, like for the technical people who can adapt and understand the need of the cyber security, but it is very tough for them to make business leaders understand the same and start investing there, because everything attracts a cost. If in case you talk about manpower, you talk about techniques, you if in case you want to do it in-house, you want to outsource it in any which ways, it will attract OPEX or CAPEX, right? So in that case, I think that is the area wherein everybody needs to think on, and certainly cybersecurity is a threat in the upcoming time also.
All right, so it is also a new source of investment, is what Mr. Ankit is trying to say. And I think you're also having you're at home, if I'm not wrong. Even the fact that a lot of noise from the background.
I'm sorry about
that. No, I'm just talking it on a pause. Like, this is also another challenge that the employees from all sort of hierarchy were facing, being at home. Whenever we are in a meeting, our kids run inside from nowhere, in the middle of nowhere, come stand in front of the camera and go out, right? All right. So, Mr. Charanjeet, I would love to hear from you.
In terms of security, we have secured our network by a firewall. Basically, Sietz has 5 locations, and all the 5 locations are interconnected with point-to-point connections through OEM. And as far as the internet is concerned, we have installed a firewall for that. And to connect from home, we have a virtual private network also. To secure the data, we have also blocked the pen drives in the systems and laptops too. Apart from it, we have also put restrictions in opening personal emails in the organization laptops. On the other hand, the people has to be more smart and educated for against cyber security, that they basically uh, do not tell their passwords by getting into someone's slide talk. Like every day we hear some news that from someone's account so and so money has been transferred to other account. So in terms of that, the people need to be more smart. And apart, as far as the organization system is concerned, we have multiple applications though we can deploy to secure the data and prevention of data leaks.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Mr. Ankur. Mr. Ankur, are you with us? I think Ankur is still having some issues. All right. So since the pandemic had struck, we all had our own set of technologies adopted to ensure that our companies are running without any hassle. Business is hitting the ground and running without much of a break. We also used a lot of strategies, technologies of our own. And talking about your company in personal opinion, what are the technologies? Or again, like to start with Mr. Vijay. Over to you.
Your voice was a little choppy in the last 10 seconds. Can you repeat?
Yeah, I was asking, what are the technologies you have adopted to bring normalcy to the operations?
I mean, we frankly, we didn't change, anything, right? Like, except, doing some surveys, through Zoom, and, a few of the things that we did, relatively, to just to make sure, the socializing is becoming a challenge, right? So we try to use Zoom heavily, to have all hands, some some stand-up comedians, coming and doing some event, all that, but we didn't change almost a bit, so.
Okay, so there's no much of a change and no new adoption of technologies as it is. All right, Mr. Ankit, over to you.
So in pandemic time, we have not introduced any new technologies in order to bring it to the normal scenarios. A reason is that we have been using all the technologies and prior to pandemic time also. But what we had a discussion just now, that we have stayed focused on to the cyber security. So we have taken a full suite of SOFOs in order to mitigate the challenges of cyber security and the viruses and all different sort of attacks. So that one adaptation we have done. Earlier we used to have semantic, and a lot of in the ad tech domain, a lot of content we have in house that is of copyright content. So we have even in the work from home model. So management has a clear indication that we need to save our content to move outside the office domain somehow. So that is different strategies we have inculcated in order to secure our data.
All right, Mr. Ankit. Mr. Charanjeet, over to you.
During this pandemic, we basically implemented a cloud backup technology to secure the data in a more proficient way. So apart from it, earlier we had all the things already implemented with us. So only the cloud backup is introduced.
Okay. So cloud backup is one technology that Mr. Charanjeet had introduced to his company. Mr. Ankur, what about you? Okay, trying to make him speak at least once, but I think he has left the meeting now. Hopefully he joins us back. All right, so we've been talking about a lot of challenges so far, but let's talk about some solutions, some problem solving now. What kind of support or solutions will help to enhance the IT or ITES industry operations? Over to you, Mr. Vijay, once again.
I have no answer for that, like frankly, right? Like, because except like, as Ankit was stressing on cybersecurity, right? Like, we are seeing, frauds from every side of it, right? Like from the deposits, like, from the payouts, like, from, misusing the accounts, like, rat holing, like, data theft, everything is like, has gone, at least like 3-4x, in the pandemic compared to the pre-pandemic. But I'm not the expert in like, commenting how these were solved. Like, a lot to do with like, AWS, like, because they themselves like, evolved and like, added like, additional security layers into solving each of these problems basically. So that's on a very high level, like, but at a micro level, I don't have an answer. Like, I'll move it over to Ankit.
Okay, so still figuring out what could be a proper solution. So Mr. Ankit, over to you.
Yeah, thanks Vijay, thanks Muthu. Like the point is, if in case we talk about the support and solutions, so I think in this time, every organization has adapted and taken their operations to one level, and since last 2.5 years, it is there in the pandemic time, so everybody is well versed with that. So still, if in case we talk about, so speed is one area which we need to find out that how we can ensure that speedy deliverables in terms of operations for all the different functions in technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So that is area we need to identify. So for example, most of the companies wherein IT function is there, they don't have a ticketing tool, right? So somebody sends email and they go and they rectify it. So there should be ticketing tool should be there. It's a small thing which could be having a bouquet of services and put it across to the organization along with some cyber security tools and wherein so that can be helpful.
All right. So a faster network to connect with everyone is what Mr. Ankit wants. I think even Mr. Tanjeet was baffled, Mr. Vijay, looking at your answer that you yourself are not able to crack what is the solution, because I see him actually smile for the very first time in today's session. I think he was baffled that much. So Mr. Charanjeet, what could be the solution that you would like to see?
Basically, I see that there are the people are unaware the total functions which we have today in hand. The people are not basically trained on the same. For example, when the first pandemic broke out, we had the Microsoft Office 365, but people were used to in the habit of one-to-one meetings. They were not aware about the Teams functionality. So we did lots of trainings in that time to make aware all the persons about Teams and about its functionality. Apart from that, the internet connectivity is also an issue as per the locations. At some location we have a very good bandwidth, and on some of the locations the bandwidth is very low. So it basically interrupts the meetings. So internet connectivity is the problem. Your voice is not coming.
Internet connectivity, especially in the rural areas, wherein like just how Mr. Ankit and Vijay was talking about earlier, connecting with the employees, especially in the rural areas, when they are back to their natives, they are a little hesitant to come back to the head office and start coming back to the office. In such scenarios, connecting with those employees, I think faster connectivity and network definitely becomes very, very essential. I think it's time to ask Mr. Tanjeet another question. Mr. Tanjeet, since the panelists were talking about the solutions that they might want to see, could you share some of the technology solutions offered by the Tata Telebusiness Services that enhance IT and ITES industry operations?
So, Muthu, I want to break this question into two parts. First is the fact of what is as I've already spoken about the product which we are offering. So, when we go into the market, customer always carries, the expectation. What is the value add, you are bringing on the table when we sell across any of the products. So, product like Zoom and Microsoft is already there in the market. So, this is something need an introduction, right? So, what is the value add we bring onto the table? As rightly said by most of the panelist members, I mean the security is something which is really a concern. So we, as I said, when we introspected ourselves, so what was the question in our mind? So I want to answer Mr. Ankit first on the part of the expectation line which he has in terms of the processes and everything. When this digital journey started, we also made a changes within our system a lot, right? And we are now somewhere where we are on a perspective where we ask the customer on the digital the caps. So digital cap, because since we come into the supervision of DOT, right? So we usually we used to carry the physical cap is the mandate which comes into the picture. Now this is a scenario where we are taking the digital cap, so where customer has to sign it and the order can be placed. So the reduction of time which has already been there. Now we are in a process, as I said, what you can expect from us, right? We are in a process where the ICS product line where this doesn't come into the supervision of DOT. We may not ask the document from the customer as well. So it will take another 3-4 months time. That's the journey which we are looking forward for. So we really wanted as simple as we can. So we really wanted to be as faster as we can, right? So rest assured, whatever your expectation is as far as they are the core prospective part, so that will be taken care of. So I can give you that confidence. The other factor which I said, the value add which we bring it on the table, right? So internet is something which which has already been there, and managed services, the managed ILL is also been there into the market. So we brought smart internet into the picture, which also has the UTM layer. So the public network, where you have lot of security concerns, because most of the organization has their the internal LAN network, which has really been covered on the security perspective. But on the public network layer part, what we bring it, that's what I said, the smart internet we brought it into the table. As far as the work from home concept, we also have a solution on the part of the email security, endpoint security, which we also offer, right? And with the multi-factor authentication security as well. What we are also bringing, SIP integration with the teams as well. This is under the process right now. So when you say that people are not using the teams, but they need to be integrated with for the communication part. So this is something which we are also coming up very shortly. Apart from this, as a lot of things are moving into the cloud part, right? We already had the cloud telephony services with us in the form of SmartFlow as a brand. So what is the next? I mean, we also have our the PSTN based solution. We also have a VPN based solution. Now, what are there is another features which we are keep on adding, so that at least when we are going to a customer, when customer says that is this integration is possible, we should say yes, right? We should not say that this is under process, or probably we'll be able to do that later. So we started off the journey on the cloud telephony part 2 years back. So now this is the portfolio which where we are catering more than 1,000 customers in the market today. Apart from this, when you say that you wanted to have can we have a cloud based on a virtual private network? Yes, we can give it to you. And we are also bringing AWS as Azure as a service as well, right? So that's the kind of the way forward plan from our side, where we can cover up all the products for the customer, as we are catering most of the SME today. So they really wanted to get into the OPEX model rather than into the CAPEX model, right? So we really wanted to ensure that whatever product we are going to offer henceforth has to be in a plug and play scenario. Right.
So any plan of action, Tanjeet, for calling solution on cloud?
So cloud-based solution, as I said, we already have. So I mean, cloud telephony services which we are already offering into the market in the form of HIVR hosted PBX or click to call. We already have those offerings available. So SmartFlow is the brand which we have launched, and we are catering more than 1,000 customers. It's a 24/5 crore product portfolio for us today, and we are going to take it up to 100 crore portfolio for this product.
All right, fantastic, fantastic, Mr. Tanjeet. As we're talking, it's time to move on to the last question for today's session. But on a lighter note, since a lot of things are happening around us, there are crises, there are challenges, but still we are coming on top of it because we ourselves are resilient in the first place, without which we can't be an entrepreneur. That's what I believe in. So, maybe to get update yourself, what do you read and watch to get business updates? Once again, Mr. Vijay Varma.
Hey, I just, I mean, there is no particular book or something, but it's just that I actively, read every interesting article in LinkedIn, and, Economic Times is something that I'm like really glued to. I start my day with that, right?
Okay.
And a few other books, recently, one of the books, which I was reading, Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, right? So a few of the books, which I rely on.
Okay.
I'm trying to really be, that guy, who will, keep intact on the business, that I'm in, and the industry is in,
Okay.
because we do a lot of competitor check, right? We rely on a lot of ROC, filings, and what's happening in the investor circle. There are few things that we rely on, right? Nothing in just specific, on this portal or something like that. So Quora is something that we actually follow for few articles,
Okay. Done. Mr. Ankit.
So very rigorous follower of Economic Times for the business updates in the country, and for the overall holistic learning and upgradation, I have a subscription for Harvard Business Review, so that I follow, and that helps
Okay.
me in order to be updated. So two source, rest right now WhatsApp University is there.
WhatsApp
So,
University.
yeah, a lot of groups are there from my IAMS alumni
Okay.
network. So get to know from different sources there.
Okay.
But from my side, intentionally, I go to these two areas.
All right.
That,
Mr. Charanjeet, over to you.
Through WhatsApp, basically the main platform to exchange latest news.
Okay.
And sometimes I watch motivational videos of Vivek Bindra.
Okay.
And recently I have started learning Python in upgrade.com.
Okay. Okay. Great. So again, learning a new skill is always very exciting. And
Yes.
with that, we come to the end of today's session. I think I had a great time interacting with you guys. Had a lot of insights and informations exchanged. This session is also going to be streamed on YouTube very soon. So I think the youngsters and the entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who wants to, get some insights will definitely have something to take away after they see the session. But before we officially close, I would again like to invite Mr. Tanjeet to deliver the closing thoughts for today's session. Over to you, Mr. Tanjeet.
Thank you, Muthu. I mean, it was a pretty, interactive session. I got a lot of, the understanding, what are the, the key challenges organization had, and they adapted a lot of, digital solutions. So ensure, the business continuity. So thank you, Mr. Vijay, Mr. Ankit, Mr. Charanjeet, and the other person I forgot. I mean, I think so Mr. Tripathi was there. So thank you for sharing your, viewpoint on it. It's a pleasure to have an interaction with all of you. As we are coming to the end of the session, so I also got some sort of the homework for me as well. There's a lot of expectation which has been asked by Mr. Ankit to correct a certain set of our processes as well. So that will be taken care of. So looking forward to see you all in person as well. So to have a cup of coffee, and as an organization, we are also moving towards, not only wider prospect, but also in a deeper prospect as far as the accounts goes. So that's the kind of the penetration level which we wanted to do it. And to support that, as I said, the lot of product lines which we are coming up as well, that can help you out end to end, in terms of your business continuity. So thank you so much. Thanks for your valuable time. Looking forward to see you all